Hey everybody, Chris Plays with Water. Today is going to be part 1 video of a 3-part series we're going to do on setting up this 10-gallon Aqueon Rimless tank. I purchased this at Petco about 4 or 5 weeks ago when they were doing their half-off sale or $1 per gallon sale. I had a coupon which knocked this down to $15. But I ended up doing a whole bunch of other things during quarantine. A whole bunch of yard work, started painting down here, set up some tanks, did some tanks, so I didn't get to it yet. But that's going to change. But first, what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you an update on some of the tanks that we've done in previous videos. Okay, so first up on the update is Clementine. I've had Clementine for about 4 or 5 years, but it wasn't up until about 4 or 5 weeks ago that I decided to convert her existing tank into a bioactive one. Now, it's working out really well. The plants are doing well. Well, most of the plants anyway are doing well. The microfauna is going nuts. They're feeding, they're digging, they're multiplying, because there's definitely more in there than what I started with. If you lift up any of the cork bark, it's just teeming with life, which is great, what we wanted. Clementine's digging it. She made a nice burrow in the back. She's shedding much more frequently and cleaner. I believe that that's probably the extra humidity in there that's helping out. Not that it's obscenely humid or anything, but just that little bit seems to be doing wonders for her. Now, when it comes to the plants, the reason why I say most of the plants are doing well is the mint's doing great like I anticipated. The oregano's doing great. The rosemary kind of died off on me. But that was purely my fault. I had neglected to water this thing for about 5-6 days or so. I was busy painting, setting up the Tanganyika Tank. I had some things going on. It didn't really matter much to her because she gets most of her water intake from when I'm giving her a bath, which I did not neglect to do, or from the greens that I give her, collard greens, dandelion, endive, escarole. The list kind of goes on as far as where she gets her water from. So unfortunately, I lost the rosemary. So I'm not sure if I'm going to replace it or not, or just let what I have in there kind of grow out, which it seems to be doing a fantastic job of doing. So that's how Clementine's tank's coming along. Okay, so next up on the update is the 75-gallon Tanganyika tank we had set up for our frontosas. Now everybody's looking great in there. The frontosas are a little less shy. You know, still relatively shy, but that's just the breed of cichlid that they are. I've added some more rock work in there. I've done 2 water changes in the week since we set this up, and I couldn't be happier with it. The lupi and the compressips are doing really well in there also, and yeah, not much else to say about it right now. I would like to upgrade the filters at some point. Maybe get another Sun canister because they've treated me so well on the 125. Okay, so let's get back to the main attraction, this 10-gallon rimless tank. I'm pretty excited that I'm finally setting this one up. It's been a while since I've set up, you know, just a nice little 10-gallon tank. So what we're going to talk about in this video is the tank itself, what driftwood we're going to use, and the other hardscape elements in here. Here we have some Malaysian driftwood. I really love this stuff. It just looks so aged, and it's really interesting looking wood here. Got all the different lines in it. Now this was one big piece that I had just taken my saw and cut. There's actually a third piece in the 45-gallon tank still. So I may take it out, put it in here, not really sure yet. Now for our rocks, it's actually more wood. This is petrified wood. It is really cool looking. Once these are underwater or wet, these red and other tan hues really pop on this stuff, so I'm excited to use it. It'll make a nice accent against green plants. Okay, so I put a little bit of our substrate in there. It's pretty much just Fluval, stratum, and eco-complete. It's a little bit of an odd mix I got going on here, a little bit of gravel. This was, the substrate along with some of the petrified wood were in a tank, which was actually the Wallstad column before I tore it down and decided to do a Wallstad style aquarium in there. So
It was set up for maybe like 3-4 months, if that. So this is still pretty nutrient rich. It's not really depleted or anything like that. I did pre-soak it just because I find it's easier to stick the wood, and it just kind of holds form a little better. Now I'm going to try to do this without facing it. But generally the way I like to aquascape is I kind of just start throwing things in there and see how it all fits together. Hopefully this driftwood doesn't float. It's going to, but hopefully it doesn't float. May have to just very slowly fill this up and let it re-waterlog. It hasn't been in a tank for a few weeks now, so retrospect, I probably should have done that first. Now, usually when you're aquascaping, you want to keep everything in odd numbers. You know, the rule of threes. So you want 3, 5, or if you got the room, even 7 of something. It's just much more visually appealing. Now the pieces I'm trying to use are all kind of generally the same hues in them, because you want to keep all the lines kind of going the same way. See how like the grains are going up and down on this? You generally want to keep them going the same way. Make it look, that's how it's supposed to be, how nature intended it to be. So you don't want them all in weird different positions, because then it's just not going to look right. Kind of like where that's going. What I am going to try to do is I want to try to keep most of the plants towards the back and have the front just be open white sand, something inert. Keep it nice and polished, especially because the substrate we're using, it's a mix, so it's not the most pretty of substrates that you want to see. And obviously we do this to try to make it look nice and clean. So we're going to try to push some of this back. Maybe we'll add a few more pieces. I got 3 in there and I got 4 left. I don't want to use all 7. It's going to be too much going on. So no, maybe we could just place these guys up in the front here. Now I know it does look very symmetrical, and that's generally something you don't want in an aquascape. But like I said, I'm going for something different. I kind of got a little bit of an idea in my head of how I want this to look. And I don't want to follow and do the same thing that everybody else is doing, so I kind of like how that looks. I'll probably add a little more substrate to the back to give it a nice deep bed for the roots to grow. That is a problem that I'm having in the 45 gallon, is that I'm kind of bonsaiing the plants in there. So I think that's part of my issue going on with that tank. So we're going to be redoing that tank, hopefully sooner than later. But yeah, I kind of like how that looks. So I think what I'm going to do next is I do have some white sand. I'll probably have to pick some more up tomorrow, but we're going to start capping all this with the white sand and clean this up a little bit. Okay, so here's a little better look. I put the light kind of hanging on top of it. I'm not really sure if this is the light I'm going to use or not. This was what was on the Nano Reef tank, the original light. It's a Fluval, and it does grow plants, because before that was a reef tank, that was a planted tank. So I know it grows plants very well. So now that we can see a little better of what the scape looks like, we're going to add the white sand. Okay, so obviously I'm going to have to get some more white sand. I'll pick that up in the morning. I'd kind of forgotten that I used some in the Tanganyika Tank just to kind of fill it in a little bit more. But, so I'll pick some more up in the morning and I'll cap the rest of this off. But you're starting to get an idea of what it's going to look like, or at least the look I'm trying to achieve here. I think it's going to be pretty neat looking. Okay, so I added some more of the petrified wood, ended up using all 7 pieces. I'm going to use it as kind of a guide for how I want to slope up the bank here. Now, something I've been watching, and it makes a lot of sense, is in the very front of the tank, you don't really want to see a lot of sand up against the glass. It just looks messy, it attracts algae. So I'm trying to run along the black bottom frame of the tank and have the sand even with that. So using my trowel, I'm able to achieve this. Okay, so I picked up the rest of the sand and capped off the Fluval mix substrate that we have underneath for once we plant it. Start to get a little bit of an idea of my vision with this guy. But I'm not going to go into detail about the plantings. But you can really see all the different hues and lines in this petrified wood, and just how cool it is and why I'm excited to use it. And the detail in the Malaysian driftwood is just awesome. Okay, and that does it for this episode of the 10-gallon rimless tank. Next week, we'll go into what we're going to do as far as lighting, filtration, and maybe something else a little extra. We'll see you then.